Perfect. Okay. We're delighted to have Ruairí McEnroe here today. Ruairí is a runner, mental health advocate, and crisis volunteer. Thank you so much for making time to speak to me today, Ruairí. The approach to mental health in Irish school system in Ireland must be improved. Student and parent voices are missing from this vital discussion, and therefore I'm creating this video podcast series to interview students, parents, past pupils, and those who wish to advocate alongside our voices in order to strive for change. Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and why you wanted to get involved in the Mental Health in Irish Schools Transition Year Project 2020 to 2021.
Thanks very much for having me, Aisling. I'm delighted that you've asked me to come along. Well, my name is Ruairí McEnroe. I come from a small town in northeast Meath called Oldcastle, and that's where I received my primary and secondary education. And so I always tell people my day job is like a library assistant, but the main passion of mine is mental health and advocacy, particularly with regard to access for services for anyone who needs them. And we know that sometimes they're not affordable to everyone, so that's really important. And then I also volunteer for 50808, where more important these days that we're able to reach young people. Mightn't be comfortable picking up a phone, so they can text in and they can reach out and talk if they need to. So I wear many different hats, but I'm really glad to be involved to spread awareness in this area. Something that requires a huge change in the school system.
How do you feel the approach surrounding mental health has changed since you were in school?
Well, it's a while since I was in school, but there was little or no discussion about mental health. Even if somebody did have a crisis, we don't have the resources. We wouldn't have any of the resources that there were today. I think in secondary school we had a guidance counsellor. They wouldn't have been equipped to deal with any of the emotional or mental health problems. And I think the stigma was a lot worse back then. It's changed for the better. Still have a lot of work to do, but it will still be considered a taboo subject. Now, from my understanding, I have nieces and nephews in primary and secondary education now, and I think it's a lot better. There's a lot more openness. We also know more about mental health conditions now than we ever do. So there are more resources available. There's a lot of help, particularly in the areas of bullying as well. There's a lot more groups out there that are stepping in, and I think in secondary school now in Oldcastle they have a group, an anti-bullying group that comes in there every once in a while, and so they're really stepping up to the plate there. So,
how do you feel we can further this conversation and make more changes in Irish schools?
There's so many things that we could do rather quickly, I think. So the easiest thing would be to have teachers trained in mental health first aid, so they could recognize the signs. We know with COVID anyway, even before COVID, we know there are signs of stress happening and the stress in young people, even as old as 10 or 11 years old. It starts young. It starts at a young age. Having a school psychologist on board, even if they were to visit once a week, if they're not attached to the school as well. I'm a big fan of meditation and mindfulness. I would love to see mindfulness in schools. The teachers could facilitate a meditation. It's worked in other countries in Europe and America. And even something as simple as learning about your emotions. a class and learning about your emotions, and how to understand anger, dealing with grief, how compassion works. So all of these could be steps that could be taken. And we know the curriculum is about 50 years old at this stage. So this is probably a very serious discussion. We need to have.
How do you mind your own mental health and well-being, especially now in the time of a pandemic?
That has been a challenge, let me tell you. But look, I'm very lucky to have a great support network around me, family and friends. I'm still able to keep in touch with a lot of family. I meditate. I do a lot of writing, poetry. Running, of course, is a big passion of mine. So anything I can do to snap out of, a negative thought or whatever, at the minute, whatever I need to do, and helps me stay grounded, and then reaching out to others as well helps me. The volunteer work helps me. When you reach out to someone else, your problems seem a lot less.
Yeah. As part of the Mental Health in Irish Schools Transition Year project, I have started a petition to highlight the lack of mental health supports in schools and to ask the Irish government to provide a dedicated mental health support service for Irish schools. The petition draws on the Irish Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy commissioned National Crisis Survey in March of 2019, in which 9 in 10 adults strongly wished for therapeutic counselling to be made in schools in Ireland. Why did you sign the petition?
Well, firstly, Aisling, I just have a huge admiration for you. It was just such a courageous thing to do, to come out like that, because you just never know what the response might be. It hasn't been always a very kind message when somebody comes out and speaks honestly. So because you were willing to put yourself out like that, I thought it was important to lend a hand. I always think of myself as an advocate for change. So like you are. So I thought it was important to add my voice.
Yeah. What is a message you'd like to share with the people watching this interview?
Well, I have two parts here. So for young people, don't get discouraged. Have those tough conversations like you're doing, Aisling. Don't be afraid to share your opinion. And it's your opinion is valid. It's worthy. You're enough, and don't be afraid to ask for help either. And for the parents out there and the leaders, listen to your young people. Understand where they're coming from, and don't be so quick to dismiss them. Be their allies and help them in their projects and their goals.
Ruairí McEnroe, thank you for showing your support towards my Mental Health in Irish Schools Transition Year project. Your time, words, and support towards the mental health of young people in Ireland is valued and appreciated.
Thanks, Aisling. Looking forward to seeing how it goes.